This is a story that came out on Raw Story. It's about big food firms Nestle and Hershey at odds with farmers over U.S. GMO labeling. It came out around the time of the 4th of July. It was published July 3rd. And since there was so much going on the 4th of July, I wanted to wait to put this video out. But they are discussing what we kind of know. The U.S. has an issue with labeling products, consumer products that you'll be eating or drinking with a GMO label. Nestle is a corporation, of course, that we know. A lot of people know them for, sweets, dessert type foods, but Nestle is involved in a lot of other production of other products that you would be consuming, from babies, baby food, things like that, all the way up to your snack foods and other commodities that people enjoy eating. And then you have Hershey, of course. Hershey is clearly associated with chocolate bars, but they also are involved with a lot of other things. So with producing other things. So the world's top food companies, which would be Nestle and Hershey's, and these farmers of crops such as beet sugar, they're going against each other. They want to lobby the U.S. over plans to label GMO products. In other countries, they label GMO. For instance, UK, they will, in England, for instance, they'll label products as GMO. And I don't know why it's taken so long for the United States to get on board and label these products as GMO. I mean, I do know why. They'll lose money initially. But people are not as inclined to, over time, just not buy certain products that they're used to buying. Certain populations are used to buying traditional products. And I think in the spirit of people sticking to certain labels and brands, even if you put this contains GMO, I believe over time people will still buy it. Because after a while, if you keep hitting someone over the head with an idea or concept, they're going to possibly succumb to it. It would actually, over time, I think, increase sales for products that have GMO. And products that don't have GMO, they would the sales initially. But over time, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just thinking about this myself, looking at it in a long-term perspective. The products that initially do not have a GMO, so they don't need a GMO label, they could just say GMO free. They will probably make money initially, but human beings are creatures of tradition a lot of times, and we see that with products or even corporations such as Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart. The list goes on, where they're telling you, like out here, McDonald's, they literally will tell you, and other restaurants on the door, you have the grade A that they've got for the health department, and then they'll say, we have products here that can cause cancer. And, that contain carcinogens or teratogens or mutagens. People are still eating there. The restaurant is still full of people. So I'm sure when those signs went up initially, people stopped going there. Their sales probably dropped off a little, but over time, humans will go back to what they are traditionally comfortable with at that moment. And that's sad, but I hope that this issue is resolved, and they do put GMO labels on the foods. So let's get into this article. It says here, at the heart of the issue is transparency over ingredients used in foods. Packaged foods manufacturers are facing flagging consumer trust and stagnating demand for some core products as consumers opt for foods with simpler ingredient lists. That's true, because a lot of foods contain the ingredient aspartame. I was just at a restaurant the other day, and on the table they have, your condiments, your ketchup, your hot sauce. I think it was like Tapatio. They had Heinz ketchup. They have little sugar packets for your tea or lemonade, and then salt and pepper. And the salt was non-iodized salt, so it didn't have iodine in it. that was like, it wasn't sea salt. So I was like, okay, I'm not using that. Then they had the pepper, and even the pepper had, it said prepared in a facility that produces nuts. And that was kind of weird. I'm like, why are they preparing pepper in a facility with for nuts? It was just very strange. Then the sugar packet had aspartame. Aspartame known to cause brain tumors in primates. That was, when I was a kid, they came out with those studies. And it also can exacerbate diabetes symptoms, make diabetes symptoms worse. The Heinz ketchup, first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, which I'm sure it comes from corn that is GMO. So all of the labeling is very important. Once that happens, like I said, people will initially be shocked at how many products contain GMO, how many products contain GMO corn, GMO soybean. But I think over time, people will, like I said, they will probably succumb to it, because these GMO products, what they'll probably do is label them GMO and drop the prices almost immediately, making it very difficult to compete, difficult for the non-GMO products to compete with the GMO containing products. So they say that many food companies want the government to require manufacturers to include on the label all ingredients that have been genetically modified. Farmers want the labels to exclude ingredients that have been so refined and processed that they no longer contain any trace of the transformed genes when they are used for food. So they use these transformed genes. They can use transposons, CRISPR-Cas9 elements, transposable elements. They can use mutations, knockout mutations, knock-in mutations, overexpression, or a permanent or temporary silencing of certain genes. And then that gets into your body and has all types of effects that are not very clear because everyone is responding to them differently. Nestle is the world's largest food maker, and rivals including Hershey's Company and Unilever PLC. And I associate Unilever with soap and body wash, but they produce a lot of other things besides that. They want the USDA to include on the label ingredients from crops that were genetically modified, such as canola and soybean oil and sugar from beets. The USDA has asked for feedback on a proposal for requiring labeling of GMO ingredients after a battle over the issue in states including Vermont sparked the federal government to intervene to pass national legislation. The deadline for public comment is July 3rd, so that has already passed. For farmers facing a GMO backlash from consumers, the fact that the ingredients no longer contain transformed genes by the time they make their way to chocolates, pasta sauce, and cereal should mean they are excluded from the labeling. I also did a video on the ketogenic diet, and these companies produce things like, they say, chocolates, pasta sauce, and cereal, which are high in carbohydrates. Well, at least the pasta sauce and cereal, high carbohydrates, high in high fructose corn syrup, which is carbohydrate. But the ketogenic diet may also pose a threat to some of these GMO containing products, because you have low carbohydrates. So that's also an issue that needs to be discussed at some point too. I also noticed how they had this public, if you wanted to have a public opinion about this, or deadline for public comment, if you wanted to publicly comment, it was July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July. So nobody was really thinking about this. And they talk about here in this little video sucrose intolerance. You can take a quiz from this link to see if you have a sucrose intolerance. They talk about the symptoms, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, and so forth, and how that's affecting your body. And it could be affecting your body because the sucrose they use, or even lactose as well, and maltose, it's probably from corn that is GMO. So yeah, they're saying also at the bottom, because I'm not going to read this whole thing. Let's come down some more. I like to get to the conclusions. So they have here, in late 2016, a coalition of farmers criticized Dannon for marketing non-GMO products after the U.S. subsidiary of Danone SA made moves to overhaul its supply chain to reduce use of the biotechnology in its yogurt products. And we already know that Dannon had some racial discrimination issues as well. And we were like, okay, F Dannon, we're going to go with other people. Oikos, I think Dannon Oikos is the same. So people start looking at like Yoplait but Dannon is under, I think, under Nestle. So it's very difficult to find snack foods, some of these foods that are not under Nestle. Even if you wanted to make yogurt yourself or you wanted to produce some of these snacks on your own, yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult to get from under this umbrella of Nestle and Hershey's. But I think it is possible. It shows that for us as African Americans that we should look into having our own, because I go into international markets all the time and I see products that are from different countries around the world, and I don't see anything that talks about Nestle on it. So the farmers say that Dannon's advertising is misleading the consumers. And so overall, like I said earlier, if they put the labeling there, I don't think they're going to follow the same paradigm as they have in the UK, where consumers love the fact that they put the GMO labeling there. I think it's going to be a little different because over time people are not going to adhere to the warning. If someone says this is contains GMO, that's like a warning label. I just hope that people are more aware of what's going on and keep up with this type of story, because those of us who have children, I don't have children myself, but people who do have children, it's important to be aware of that. If you have infants, of course that you want to know what's in your child's food, and just in general, what your children are, if you still have them in school, what they're eating at school, what type of products that they're serving them in the cafeteria. Do like my mom did. She just sent us to school with food from home. She didn't really allow us too much to eat in the cafeteria unless she knew exactly what it was they were serving that day in the cafeteria. But that's it for this video, you all. I'd like to hear what you have to say. I hope I wasn't all over the place too much. I was trying to give my perspective on this story. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.